Hey everyone, I am back with another video like this where I pretty much just talk to you in the camera. And for today's video, I really just wanted to kind of just dive into something that's been on my mind actually for quite some time, a couple months, if not even a couple of years. And it's one of these sort of subjects where I feel like can sometimes get a bad rap. It can kind of, the message that I think I'm going to say, I think can sometimes be taken, I think sometimes in the wrong context. But I just, first of all, before I say anything, I want to just say that I am not, I'm not making this type of video to blame or to just complain. Like I've mentioned in some of my other videos and other content, you know, that's just not the sort of person who I am. Because I think we have enough complaining and enough issues today in our world. I don't see how just complaining and adding yet another thing to this sort of noise is going to do any good. And so what I'm trying to do is, first of all, I'm trying to speak my own truth. I'm trying to communicate as best as I can who I am in my story and what it is that I want to do with my life. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that in the most honest way possible. And so, you know, for this subject, what I want to talk about is about going to college. And I guess I want to share with you, I guess, sort of my experience with college. And, you know, I said this in the beginning of the video, but I want to make sure that I'm, you know, clarifying and making sure that I'm not getting this wrong. But, you know, I'm not making this video to say that you should not go to college by any means. If anything, I just want to relay and communicate my story of college and, you know, just some things that I've learned and things that I've sort of realized about college. And, you know, hopefully that helps you in, you know, whether or not you're about to go into college, or maybe if you're, you know, in the beginning stages of looking into other colleges, you know, and whatnot. I just hope that with this video and by me sharing a little bit about my story with college, that, you know, it can give you a better sense of, you know, what exactly is the right step for you in terms of going about college. So I guess the best way to start, I guess, is sort of the beginning. But basically for me, I've always felt, you know, ever since I was probably in middle school, that there was just something off with school in general. And I couldn't quite exactly, you know, put my finger on it. I started to realize this more in high school, I think, where I realized that conformity and societal norms and caring about what other people think, that was sort of the standard. That was what you had to do. That was the environment. And I realized this early on in high school, and you know, for a long period of time, I really thought to myself, this something doesn't seem quite right. It seems like, you know, a lot of what I was learning in school was just being, to put it, you know, in easier words, I just felt like it was being spoon-fed into me. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of meaning and a lot of actual truth behind the information. You know how there's one thing to obtain knowledge, there's one thing to obtain information. You know, it's one thing to know facts and to know about something, but to truly understand it and to truly understand it in context to, say, someone's life or into, you know, a job or whatnot, that's a whole different thing. And, you know, I had this thought even as I went into college, but I guess that at the time when I was going to college, I sort of made the mistake of not really, I guess, asking these sort of questions. I sort of went to college, I guess, with the mindset that somehow this is, I guess, what is expected. This is what's normal. And you know, I've been in college. I'm a junior right now, and for me, just even looking back now, I think that if I could go back in my life, I honestly would choose not to go to college. And I'm going to explain why. But again, I'm not trying to sell you to skip out of college, because I want to make sure I'm giving a very fair and honest view of this, because I think it's a very complicated sort of a thing, and clearly with just my story, I don't think it's like I'm not expecting to like change everyone's opinion on it, because that's just not feasible. That's not going to happen. So I've been in college for about three years now, and one of the observations that I'm very confident in saying, just from my experience in college, is that there's a lot of knowledge thrown at you, but I think that there's, at least from my experience, it seems like there's not a whole lot of guidance, and it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of genuine support and care for understanding an individual or student's priority, or what it is that they actually want to get out of life. I see a lot of routine things in the academic community. Not that it's a bad thing, because I get that there is a tradition, there is a way of doing things, and I do respect tradition. I'm one of the only few people, I think, that loves classical music, and that's something I'm super excited about that I'm going to be sharing with you more later this year, and just with my content is my passion and love for specifically classical music. But like I said, that's for another time. But I think that there is something, maybe not necessarily wrong, but I think that there is something missing within college, and that I think that in general, I think that the colleges, specifically in America, they have this sort of expectation, or they have this standard that's because of the past, and it's because of it's rooted up in tradition, and it's rooted up in traditional socio-economical, societal stuff like that. It's rooted all in the past, and I think we're living in a very extraordinary day of age, and I don't necessarily think that, I at least from what I can observe, I don't think that colleges in general have necessarily been fast enough to catch up to just how quickly society is changing. And I think we are seeing this playing out in a multitude of different areas and industries. And so I think that it's important to ask yourself, why is it that you're going to college? Not necessarily how or what. I think those are important questions, but I think to really get to the heart of the issue and what's going on, you have to really ask yourself why. I think that's a great question to ask in really any situation, to really understand what's going on, to understand the meaning and the truth. And when I ask myself why is it that I'm going to college, really some of the reasons as to why I'm going to college are really, unfortunately, they're not very strong, and it's a little embarrassing for me to even say what I'm about to say, but it's just, that's the truth, and again, this is my story. But for me, one of the reasons why I go to college is because there is that expectation of your parents, and there is that expectation of your friends and people around you, and people that you do care about and people that are close to you. And I'm just pointing it out as that's one of the reasons. And I think I realized that in life that you should never have to live your life under the expectation of someone else. And that, I think, is a fundamental principle that I think you can apply to your life. And that's why I think I have, I guess, a real issue with why I'm in college right now, is because, well, for one, I think that I'm someone who has taken a lot of time to be patient and to listen and to not, I guess, not be like everyone else, even though that's kind of ironic to say because I know I'm not like everyone else, but that I've just realized that college isn't, if I really ask myself, why am I in college and what am I really wanting to get out of college, I realize that I don't have a good reason for why I'm in college. And two, college isn't necessarily, it's not going to help me get to where I want in life. Now, let me give you, I guess, a couple of reasons why I think college is still a very realistic and viable and, good option to go after high school. And I guess the first one is it's a great place and it's a great environment to go if you don't necessarily know what it is that you want to pursue in life. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be job or career-wise. I mean, this could really be for, maybe you just need, you want to be more, you want to sort of experience more things socially, or you want to, experience what exactly it is to be, in a setting where there's a lot of people that are around your same age and, are somewhat sort of in the same path in life, although I really don't like to say that because I really believe that all of us are on very different steps in our journey in life. But college does have its benefits in that respect. And I think that if you're someone that, really doesn't really know, what it is that you want to pursue in life, I think that college is definitely an option. And I think it's an option that is going to be here for, it's certainly going to stay. And another reason why I think that college, is a good route to go is, I think it's a good route to go if what you want out of life requires some form of education that is really only available in a college or academic setting. Now, what am I referring to? Well, I mean, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if those sort of professions where not only do you need the credentials and that, but you just need the knowledge and you need that sort of level of training and education. So, if you want to be a nurse, if you want to, go into medical school, if you want to go into law school, that sort of stuff. And I'm generalizing, but hopefully you understand the point that I'm trying to make. So there's that aspect, and I certainly don't want to downplay that because I think it's a very, it's a very important aspect of our society is having those jobs and having, you want to go to the doctor and you want whoever's treating you and helping you to be an expert. I mean, I wouldn't want just, I would not want the average person to, be, giving me medicine or, telling me what I have. I would clearly want someone who was educated and had a solid understanding of what it is that they were talking about. So that's a couple of reasons why I think that college is a good option to go for. Now back to sort of my story. One of the reasons why I don't think that college is necessarily right for me is because the way I view my life and the way I see myself sort of navigating life, I really don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see what it is that I want out of life. I don't see a college degree. I don't see that as a requirement. I don't see it as a some sort of stature or certificate or sort of recognition that I have to get a degree in order to, to get what I want out of life. The more I realize and think about this, the more I think it's actually very true of me. And that is, I think I do have a very individualistic sort of mindset, and I think that I have a very sort of business-like and, for lack of a better term, entrepreneur-like mindset. I really do think that. And I think a large part of that has to do with the fact of just sort of what I'm doing on social media. And look, I think that social media is only going to continue to become more of an influence and factor in our daily lives. Now, whether or not we think it's a good or bad thing, that's debatable. But the fact is that social media is on the rise, and I've decided that I want to do my best to use it for good, and not just for myself, but to help other people. So that's one of my ongoing things with social media. But I also feel like with college, I think that there is sort of a false narrative that sort of plays about in our minds, maybe when we're first getting exposed to learning about what is college, to even as we go throughout college, and that is this notion of like somehow by getting a college degree that you, for one, you are somehow educated enough that by this society's standard that you are sort of an adult, that you can pretty much just do what you want, that you are you've been given all that you sort of need, and that you can do whatever you like. And that's one aspect, and the other is this whole aspect of student debt, and that's something that I think a lot of us who are in college, I think that's a very problematic thing. I mean, we're going to have to spend a large majority of our 20s just paying back student debt. And maybe that doesn't apply to you, or that's not everyone, but I think for the most part, college students coming out of college are going to have some sort of debt. Even I have debt, even though I did have a fair good amount of scholarship, and I'm very grateful for that. But I do have some amount of debt that is going to require at least a couple of years to sort of pay off and whatnot. So to sort of go back to the first aspect that I was talking about, this sort of, I guess, false narrative that college almost in a sense sort of guarantees and makes students believe that they're somehow equipped and fully all set to sort of take on the world and whatnot. My only thing I would say is I would caution anyone who continues to believe in that, and I would just encourage you to really think about that, and again, look, I'm not someone who's going to say you're wrong, or somehow that what you believe is wrong or bad. I'm not like society. I'm not like other people. I really think that there's an opportunity for us to understand one another in a way that perhaps we've never been able to do. And so back to my point, I think that, it's always good to really think about the things that you believe, and looking at your life and just, asking yourself, like, okay, like, why is it that I'm doing this? Or, what is it that I believe and why? As it pertains to getting a college degree and whatnot, there's so much of society that, puts pressure on us to fit in, and to act a certain way, and to have your life and lifestyle configured in a certain way. I'll say this for the record. I'm someone who I don't drink coffee, and I'm one of few, probably very few college students who does not drink coffee, and I stand 100% behind that. I'm not going to give in to society, and it's maybe it's a silly little thing as coffee, but I think that if I were to give in to something small like that, imagine if it was something big and society was pressuring you. So another story for my coffee rant, but I think that with college, I think it's important to ask yourself why is it that you're sort of in this environment? What exactly are you wanting to get out of college? because I realized that so much that I've understood and accepted in my own life has been through my own experience and my own decision to actually embrace who I am, and to really not to give in to society, because for a long time, and I've mentioned this on my blog and some of my podcast episodes, and I'm sure on some of my Instagram posts, but for a long time I definitely struggled with self-identity. I really did not know myself, and look, I'm not going to say that I have everything figured out in my life, and because I probably never will, but that's kind of the beauty of it, that by actually not knowing and accepting that, you actually allow yourself the freedom to know more. Because if you think, if you come into life thinking that you have it all figured out, well, you're putting life in a box and you're putting all of the rules on life. But who's to say that you have everything figured out about life? I mean, life is so mysterious and unpredictable and beautiful and crazy all at the same time that, I mean, I don't see how anyone reasonable could try and make sense or try and control it. One of my latest Instagram posts, I just sort of briefly mentioned that, at the end of the day, like with our lives, like we are the only ones who are in control of ourselves. And as much as we can be influenced and influence other people and those around us, we're responsible for our own actions and what we say and what we do. And, whether that's for good or bad, that's up to the individual. But it also just, I think, goes to show that we have the choice and the freedom to do what's good and to do what's right. And that, I think, is hugely important, especially in the day that we're living in today. Okay, so to follow up with, I guess, my second aspect of student debt, I just figured, I think when I really think about college, I have to almost look at it as almost like a transaction. Because in some ways we are paying money, and we are hoping to receive something that is either of equal or higher value to us. That's why we're here. So yeah, I guess looking at it from that aspect, I have to ask myself: is this transaction was this a good choice? And for me, I don't think it was. And here's why. I don't think that the money that was spent either for me or my family to have me in college, I don't think it was the best use. It wasn't the best invested. College is expensive, and by the looks of it, I think it's only going to increase, which means inflation and stuff is going to only continue to rise. And for me, it's like, I think about the tool that the internet is, and I think about how powerful that really is. And when I really start to try and make sense of it, I can't, because it still continues to amaze me that we have, honestly, such a extraordinary tool, which is the internet. I mean, what was thought to be, even 50 years ago, obviously when I wasn't alive, but when the older generations, I think a lot for their information, it was either through telling it through stories or through books or, very traditional methods of communication. And I think that the 21st century is honestly going to be an age of digital. It's going to be, if any of the indicators now tell us, I think that we are certainly heading in that direction. The integration with digital and the rise, and I think unprecedented rapid growth of technology in the past 10 years, I think it's going to have a huge effect on our lives and how we go about things. And it's interesting, because I think that when we look at the education system in general and we look at college, I think overall it's been too slow you know, I think it's playing catch up, because I think that especially when it comes to knowledge and whatnot and educating, really the answer to any of your questions, I guess, per se, is technically just a couple of word searches on Google, and there it is. And I think that this presents both a good and a bad thing. I mean, obviously the good thing is that we live in a day of age where information is so readily available that literally we could, in a matter of seconds, we can know to a certain degree of something, of anything. But I also think that it's precisely because of this rapid increase in accessibility to information that I think there is a lack of understanding of the meaning behind information. You know, it's one thing to say that, you know, 2 + 2 is 4, but, you know, when you put that in the context of a real life situation, then, you know, how exactly do you assess that? How do you know how to judge it accordingly or rightfully and whatnot? You know, searching that on Google, I mean, it's just one of those things that you can't really do. So, you know, when it comes to, you know, this whole student debt thing and going to college, I think it's definitely a question that I would encourage you to have with either yourself or whoever is guiding you with college. And, you know, I made the mistake of sort of just thinking that, oh yeah, college was just something that I was going to have to do. Okay, thanks. I'm going to have to wrap this up because music building is closing. But just to finish up my thought that, you know, I think that it's important to sort of ask yourself those questions and to really think about what it is that you want in life. And if college is something that you think that is going to help you, then by all means I think you should take that. But if it's not, I really think that you should sort of think about that and be honest with yourself about that. So I hope, you know, something in this video helped you, and I gotta get out before they really do kick me out. But again, I hope that something in this video helped, and I will probably be talking more about this in another video and whatnot, and I'll be back in another video. Thanks.